Alright, now these next series of videos are all about World War I, and this first video is about the causes of World War I and also U.S. neutrality. Now understand I'm skipping over a lot here, and there's a lot to be covered as far as world concerned, but you should have gotten that in world history, so I'm going to hit on high points only and then hopefully move on. Now in addition, I'm going to put some other videos up here for some bonus that was recorded at the actual World War I Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, and so I'll explain later how that works. And there's some really cool stuff there, alright? Here you go. Now, there's a good acronym to remember the main causes of World War I, and that is MAIN, alright? The M is militarism, and that is the building up of these large armies, millions of men, 250,000, 500,000, etc. The A is alliances. These countries are building these huge systems of friendships on the fact that they'll help each other out. The I, we just got done with it, imperialism. Naturally, if you take over a smaller country, there could be some things there. And lastly, N is nationalism. These smaller countries don't want to be a fodder country for this much bigger empire. They want their own nation. They want to be able to make their own decisions. All right. Now there is another one, a minor one, of socialism, and we can get maybe into that later on, but that's not necessarily that big of a deal right now. Now, the Balkan Peninsula is going to be the powder keg of Europe. Okay? Basically what happens here is Austria-Hungary, which is right there in the yellow, they decide that they're going to go down to Serbia and also Bosnia, the main city being Sarajevo, and that they're going to make them work for them. They do suppress a revolution there, and ultimately in the end things ignite there, no pun intended. Now, Bosnia has many different ethnicities, and this has been a major problem in the 90s. There's a major war here as well. One of the ethnicities are Serbians. So Serbia is going to try to help Bosnia create their own country. Okay? Now they did this through a kind of underground organization known as the Black Hand. The Black Hand, that's their symbol there. They were prevalent and in Bosnia, and in the fact that they're trying to get these things worked out. Now, this right here is the assassin. This guy here is basically why World War I starts. The Black Hand assassin in Bosnia named Gavrilo Princip was going to kill the Archduke, or the second in command of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, whose name was Franz Ferdinand. When he came down to Bosnia and did these things there that we saw, he did kill him. Now, naturally, the Austrian-Hungarians are mad at the Serbians, and they want to make them pay, correct? However, Serbia had a big thing in their corner, and that is Russia. Nobody wants to mess with Russia, okay? However, Austria-Hungary does have some help from another country that speaks basically the same language in them, and that is Germany. Germany says, we got you back 100%, go and do it, we got you. And that's the main problem. With that alliance, we get launched into this. Now, everyone picks a friend and they jump in. We had, this is kind of how the map worked out, okay? At first we had the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. The Triple Entente will be there in kind of the blue and purple. It's France, Britain, and Russia. So notice, if Serbia, and you can see them right there with that little yellow loop onto Russia, brings Russia in, France and Britain are as well. Now, Austria-Hungary and Germany also had a little alliance with Italy as well. You can see they have Bulgaria and Serbia on their side, as well as the Ottoman Empire, which is the Muslim nations that we know of, Syria and Lebanon and Iraq and Iran, lots of countries, okay? So you can tell this is going to get pretty nasty, right? Once the war does begin, the green will no longer be called the Triple Alliance. They'll call the Central Powers. It's really easy because they're all in the central of Europe. The blue, purple, whatever you want to call it, they are now not going to be called the Triple Entente, but rather simply put the Allies. Okay? So that's our beginning of World War I, really, really shortly, right? Now, what about the U.S.? The U.S. said we are neutral. Now, what is the difference between neutral and isolationism? isolationism as Roosevelt, or not as Roosevelt, as Washington put it, you see a fight, you walk the opposite direction. It's not my business. Neutrality, I'm going to pass by and I'm going to kind of, it's kind of interesting, but I'm not jumping in, okay? So we are aware of the world things. We are fully aware of what's going on. However, we are not going to get involved. The British mines these seas. This interferes with American trade in Germany. So in the end, the Germans also interfered with American trade in England by using a submarine. And this is a big deal because this is how we're ultimately going to get involved with that submarine, and we'll get that later on, okay? Now, just a few terms we have here. The first is a belligerent nation. A belligerent means someone who's aggressive or fighting. Basically, in the beginning of the war, we said we're not going to help anybody who is belligerent, who is fighting foreign entanglements, okay? We're going to see how that kind of moves from time to time as we get there. Now, the other thing we preached was we wanted freedom of the seas. We wanted everybody to be able to use the oceans to do trade, etc. And the big menace were those U-boats, as I said, okay? So we can kind of see where we're lining up there. Now, a new technology of war is called the trench warfare. Basically, we dug trenches and we decided we're not going to move past the spot. We're not going to give up our little land, okay? Now, this is actually probably one of the worst decisions in history ever, because these trench warfare brings out new weapons, flamethrowers and tanks and bombs and poison gas, and the infamous no man's land between there, which you were basically left for dead. And so in the end, trench warfare turns World War I into a war of attrition. We're in static, we're not moving anywhere, defensive positions, not able to maneuver, and the object of this warfare is to crush the enemy by repeated attacks and defeat him by exceeding the numbers of soldiers and materials. In other words, bleed the other side dry. The side who can stand the losses could be defeated. Now, there's actually some really interesting stories we have here in the fact that a lot of these soldiers actually didn't even want to fight, and they would purposely sabotage things so they would not have to. All right? And so there is that war of attrition.